Thank you so much. How many of you are just overwhelmed at Christmas right now and like, I'm never going to make it, I'm never going to do it. And we don't even exchange gifts at our family. We exchange acts of service. But we're still just, how am I going to get this done and how am I going to get this done? Thank you for bearing with me. Ran home, grabbed my little bag, got here, realized I didn't get your handouts. So I'm frantically trying to call my husband to bring your handouts down. But we're going to have a fun time today. We have 3 particular sections, and the title of this, I changed the title a little bit, but it's called Communicating with Kids of All Ages. Now, how many of you have, well, you all have children at your daycare. How many of you work with adults who act like kids? All right, you don't have to hold your hands up. Yeah. How many of you interact with adults who are parents and loving, loving, caring people, where the children are more mature than the parents are? Yeah. So I named this Communicating with Kids of All Ages because I don't want you to just think we're talking about daycare kids. We're talking about adult people who sometimes are 42 and immediately act like 2, and then back to 42. And so you have to know where they're coming from. First of all, I want to acknowledge all of the men. Bless you and thank you for coming. Love it, love it. I think that that's a wonderful sign of the time. The more men who are involved in after-school care, before-school care, any of the programs that are out there, I want to salute you and thank you for that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's give them a hand. Let's give them a hand and me a Kleenex. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Remind me and I will reward you later. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is what is communication? How important is communication? I think we just had an example of that. How many of you knew everything that she was telling you? Was that completely new information? How many of you knew some of what she was telling you? And you got additional information there. So communication is how we share either a message or an information. And in order to do that, we have to have one thing in common, and that's a language. And that language doesn't have to be English, and it doesn't have to be Arabic, and it doesn't have to be Spanish. It's a shared language that we both know. We do, in our family, we do a lot of work with international students. And it's fun to see that there are some languages, body language, gestures, that are universal. And one of them you guys will recognize, and it's this. What does this say in America? Okay, you're okay. It will be fine. We'll get through this. You're safe. You're safe. I'm here. I'm going to take care of you. What does this say in Japan? You're safe. You're okay. Someone's here. We're going to take care of you. Why does this calm you down wherever you are in the world?
That's what we do to a baby.
Yeah. And right. And why do we do that to a baby?
For security.
For security. because they've given us cues, haven't they? They've given us clues. They can't say, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I was all warm and you guys pushed me out and now I'm out here facing this world. That also mimics the heartbeat. So we're going, that pat. I have a question.
Physical touch is essential.
Absolutely, absolutely. And today's going to be in 3 blocks. And the last block is the love languages and how important physical touch is. That's the #1 love language, and that's the one that runs through all of the others. So there's communication that we're giving with each other, and we're sharing a message. So when you get your handouts, this is what they will look like. And I've done a good packet for you because I know that sometimes we have so much on our mind we want to remember, but we can't remember everything, especially when it's this. Do you know what this is called? This is called verbal language. And verbal language is the sharing of information. And it's and as far as I'm concerned, everything I say is Pulitzer Prize winning. I should be given the Nobel Prize for this brilliance. But quite frankly, everybody's, including me, is like blah 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 blah, and we only remember a little bit of it. What we do remember, though, and we're going to go into this more in the next session on building respectful relationships, is we remember how someone treats us, or we remember how someone has made us feel. And that's what we want to talk about a lot today, is how you can augment this with this. You probably shouldn't have set up here unless you like to be handled, okay? I'm a mom and a gram and an auntie, love to pat and hug. But when we're talking about we need a common language, what about, who in here is a techie, works with computers? Her? You are? Okay, when you're working with that computer, is there a language that you need to know?
Yes.
Yeah, and what kind of a language is that? Computer language. But it's based on mathematical things. Okay, she knows this language that was a hard one, to communicate with the computer. Do you know what language I use to communicate with my computer? It's called profanity. Yeah. And it does not always obey me when I give those things. But there is there's a message that you're trying to send to the computer, and it's easier for you because you know the language it responds to. And the same way it is with us. We know if we can figure out what language our kids, no matter how old they are, respond to, then it makes it easier. It makes it easier to share information. It makes it easier to give information. It just is it's like a step or two up from where we were once we figure out that information. So I'm going to ask you to do a fun experiment with me. Let's see, do we have about, I think I have about 5 or 6 of these. How many of you know about a miracle cloth? These are wonderful. You can buy them at Costco or at the dollar store or anything, but they shine and polish everything. And I did not get a chance to shine and polish these mirrors, so you can. I need some volunteers just to hold a mirror. It isn't like I'm asking you to dig a ditch. This is easy. This is the easiest part. You want one? We need one here. In the first place, look in the mirror and say how beautiful you are. Come on. And we'll pass the miracle cloth around, but this really does shine. It does an amazing job, especially if you get one end wet. Then shine it. See, don't you look prettier now?
I can see myself better.
Yeah. So they are a miracle. But what I want you to do is I'm going to say the same word, and I want those of you who have a mirror to notice your expression. Those of you who don't have a mirror, look at the person next to you. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Are you ready? All right. Now, these are words that are generic words. We're cleaning our glasses. These are generic words or expressions that we use 100 times a day. And they're used in almost all languages, all cultures. So the word is O. So everybody say O. Did you hear how many different tones there were in here? Okay, now I want you to say O like you would if you were seeing a brand new baby. Isn't that different? Did you hear that? Okay, now, this is a very timely one. I want you to say O like you just walked into Shopko and you saw exactly what you wanted on sale. Woo! Woo! Ah! Okay. Now you go to your mailbox, and the Publishers Clearinghouse wasn't kidding this time. They really did bring you a check. What do you say? Yes, yes, yes. Woohoo! That's a good one, isn't it? And you're on the phone, and you're interrupted by a child. Okay, say that one out loud. I like that one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times we use our body language, don't we? Oh. All right. Receiving a reprimand at work. Actually, here's one. At work, we see a closed door. That's it. Say it louder.
Oh.
Right, right. And do you know that our mind automatically goes to the negative?
Yeah.
We think, yeah, they're all in there talking about me, and I'm going to be out of a job here. It's, you know, it's coming down the pike. They saw me take the extra pickle at lunch. It's all over. Yeah, okay. You're on the phone with Charter. Oh, say it again, louder.
Oh, God.
Okay, look in the mirror when you say that.
I don't have to.
Yeah, my surprise with that is every time I call them, my bill goes up. I think, how did that happen, you know? Okay, you are on the call with Charter, and they put you on hold.
Yeah.
Oh. You have a headache. Okay. How do you say oh when you have a headache? Yeah. That evokes pain, doesn't it? You just had a fender bender.
Oh, profanity.
Oh, profanity. Okay, here's one for you guys. Having warm lotion rubbed on your back and feet. Get out! Really? Oh, I thought I would have all of these. Oh, and people don't like that one?
I do.
I do too, man. All right, getting just what you want for your birthday. All right, getting good news from the doctor. Yeah. The sun is shining and the grass is green. Yeah. And that's happening right now, isn't it? It's amazing that it is. Having someone say, I love you. Having an adult say, I love you.
That's for the adults.
Having a child say, I love you. Yeah. Depends on what they want. Good answer. Getting an unexpected check in the mail. Oh, yeah. Getting an unexpected bill in the mail. Yeah, okay. Having a child tell you that they're feeling very sad. Okay. Being surprised. Being afraid. Being so angry that you can't even speak. Yeah, we've been asked not to go there, to move right along. Okay. Seeing a caller ID that your mother has called. I know. Now, do you hear all of the differences in the O? We could spend an entire day doing this, couldn't we? Going there. All right, receiving a letter from a friend. Yeah. Oh, and sometimes it's, oh crap, I forgot to send her a note for her birthday. Oh, I forgot this. Yeah, so it brings joy, but it also may bring a little guilt with it. Okay, so the other universal words that are used are and let me think what the other one is. There's another one. And shh is a word that's pretty universal. And what does shh mean?
Quiet.
Or shh, you're safe. I'm taking care of you. I will make sure that everything goes well. So we've determined that communication is more than just talking. It's an interaction. It's a sharing of information with a message that's understood by the receiver and by the person going out. Is that always the case, that what you're saying is what is heard?
No.
In fact, very infrequently does someone spot on tell you what you want to hear, especially with charter. It's like, are we disconnected here? Yeah, we aren't going to get sued about this, are we? Well, okay. The ability to communicate is probably one of the most important ones that you can have. And the ability to communicate with a child is super, super important, because very seldom will they have the verbal skills to tell you what they need. They will be able to tell you what they want, but it isn't necessarily what they need. And so it's almost like, and in past classes I've had a picture of an iceberg. And the iceberg, the very tip of it is anger. But there's all this underneath the water. And that's the same thing with messages that we get from kids, our coworkers, our spouses, is there's more to this than we thought there was. There's a whole different level. And so in order to get down to what they need, we do some things to get on the same page, to learn as much about different methods of communication as we can, and that's why we're here today, is to get that, and then to recognize that the one thing that we can do, no matter where we are, no matter who we're with, no matter what we're doing, is smile. So look in your mirror and smile. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of, can't remember the word, medical, since we're at the Providence Center. Do you know that your body is psychologically, philosophically, whatever the word is, unable to hold a negative thought and a smile? So I want you to think of something negative. You were just talking. I know. I'm just going to get you there for just a minute. We're going to bring you out. Okay, you're thinking of that. Now smile.
And it immediately made me stop thinking about it.
Yeah, it does. So the reason I want to share this with you is because how many of you say to a child, time out, go sit on that chair and think about it? Well, they're just ruminating. And if only, and why didn't she, and she doesn't understand. If you say, here, you go over there and tell yourself funny jokes. And I'm going to challenge you. You cannot say ha ha. Just go look in the mirror, and in almost nothing, they're out of that black mood. They're able to go on with living. They haven't planted it into their body, and they're able to go on. So how many of you will try this? The ideal from Auntie Artichoke is that you send a kid outside underneath a tree to take his shoes off. And I know we've been through this before. You can't have kids take their shoes off. Is that right? for safety reasons, you're not allowed to or you can't?
I don't have them taking their shoes off outside simply because, you know, there could be a bee with the clovers in the grass or something, they could be stung.
Okay, well, if I ever run another child care, I'm going to let them. And let them feel the earth and sit with a mirror under a tree and see how long that gets them to remember that they're part of this huge universe and whatever was bugging them really isn't that big of a deal. So try it. Try these. If you have to do timeouts, try it with mirrors anyway. It will be better. All right. Verbal communication is the sharing of language. How much of that do you think, if I don't get the handouts down here to you, how much of what I say today will you remember this afternoon?
I'm real auditory, so I would remember a lot. But a lot of people are not. A lot of people have to read. But I'm also taking it.
Yeah, bless you, bless you. You're okay, but even with you, you will remember about 20% until later this afternoon. Tomorrow, maybe 10%. A week from now, when someone says, "What did you learn in Missoula?" It will be about 7%. Yeah, yeah. When did I go there? Yeah. It will be about 6 or 7%. Now, nonverbal communication is the communication of relationships. So verbal is the communication of information. Nonverbal is the communication of relationships. And of that, you will retain about 80% of my body language, of my touching you, of my anything that I do to make you feel important, anything that will connect you with me. So you will also you will be able to remember the stories I tell you because you'll be able to relate those in your mind. You may not remember what the message was, but you'll remember the story. So nonverbal communication is our facial expression, is our tone of voice, and it's what we do with our body. So this is how you increase people knowing you and how you increase your stature, is you stand up straight, you look people in the eye. When you shake their hands, you put your hand out like this, and here's a little technique. So we're down one guy, I'll tell you women, okay? Whoever puts their hand on top has the power. So when you shake hands, you hook thumbs, put your hand here, and if a guy tries to move it that way, you grab it here like this. and you'll notice that most men, when they shake hands, will go like this. And that's a body language that says, I'm with you. I'm on your team. I'm connected. You can trust me. This is a connection. What a little tip that I want to tell you is to say your whole name. And hi, I'm Judy Wright, and from Artichoke Press, Missoula, Montana. Tell me where you're from. You open a conversation, or I love that. That is so cute. Did you make that? Gives them an opportunity, something in there. But you want to state your whole name, which means I'm pleased with myself. I know who I am. So as little kids come in, you shake their hand, you get down on their level, you look them in the eye, and you talk to them. And you say your whole name and their whole name. Now, this sweet lady said that she's auditory, which we've gone through before in classes here. So she hears and understands things. My husband is auditory, so he doesn't like to look people in the eye. It's very, very hard for him. Now, all of the body language say that you need to look people in the eye so they know you're not lying. However, he cannot think fast on his feet. And so he has to look off a little bit, formulate his answer, and then look back. So when people say, well, anyone who won't look you in the eye is dishonest, that's not true. There's just different methods of how we pick up that message and what we're doing. So let's talk about some body language things. What does it mean when someone goes like this? pretty closed off. Why would they be closed off? Yeah, disappointed. What are they protecting? Their heart, their stomach. Okay, now I want to teach you something that was, go ahead.
It also means, though, if you're the boss,
A little authority, a little authority.
if you're in an office situation.
But look what she's doing. Okay, you probably, let me show you. Because this was one, I used to be very, very heavy. And managed to lose a lot of weight, start the second half of my life, a whole new me. And so when I had some photographs taken for a brochure, the woman said, cross your arms. And I said, oh, I don't want to. I don't want to. I've spent so many years embarrassed. I don't want to do that. And she said, oh, no, no. Now, look at this. And you just did that. What does this say?
I'm married.
Well, that's the right hand. But what does this say? That it says, I have authority. This may say, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm ashamed. This says, hey. Yeah, yeah. But look at the difference. This is only, what, about an eighth of an inch? Pulling that out, but it makes all the difference in the world. The other thing is to look, when you're talking to someone, look where their feet are. And if their feet are going this way, it means, hurry up and finish so I can leave. You know, let's move it out, move it out, move it out. I want to be out of here. What are some other body language tricks that you've noticed that have helped you to more readily understand what our kids are doing? Pretty lady in the green. It looks like you know a whole bunch about body language. Can you share something with us? And you don't have to if you don't want to. You can just say pass.
If your legs are crossed, they're pointing to the person that you're directing your attention to.
That's. Did you hear that? If your legs are crossed, you're
Pointing your attention towards the person the crossed leg is pointing towards.
So if your legs are crossed, you're really paying attention to whoever your legs are crossed. So my legs are crossed here. I'm listening to you, but I'm really concerned about what she's doing because I want to go talk to her. You know, so I'm paying homage to you, but hurry up, hurry up. Enough about you. Let's get right back to me, and then we can go over here. Yeah. And what are some other things that you guys have developed that you can zero in on kids or parents or spouses or employees?
Everyone universally does just a minute.
Ah,
Just a minute. And
That's
we
true.
also do an open arm, like, okay, come on.
aha, that is a good one. Thank you. I had forgotten that. Sure. And this means, just a minute. Now, my kids say that the only reason I do these talks is to have an opportunity to spill the family guts in front of complete strangers. But that's probably true. But one of the things that I believe strongly in is that you always tip hotel maids. Always. They're usually single moms. They work in a hotel because they can drop the kids off to school and get off and get the kids afterwards. And so I was at a global women's conference one time where all of these women were talking about improving the lives of women in Africa and Nigeria and blah, blah, blah. And I said, and how many of you tipped your maid this morning? Two of us. And one of the universal things that I do to converse with the maid is I go like this. What did I just tell you? I'm a mother of 6 children. And then she goes, and then I go, and she goes. And so I know we have immediately established a connection. We immediately know each other. We have a message that says, hang in there. What you're doing is good. You know, I applaud you. I'm proud of you. And I see you. That's probably, aside from children wanting safety, the next thing that they want most is to know that they're important, that know that they are seen. And the opposite of love is not hatred. It is neglect. It's indifference. Thank you. That's right. Yeah. So let's talk about, we've talked about nonverbal. So how you say something is much more important than what you say. Have any of you ever seen a parent, or I know none of us would have ever done that, but have said, oh, I love you, but don't get my skirt dirty. Or, yeah, I love you, and I'll be with you in just a minute. But, well, what message does the kid get? Like, yeah. Right, you're too busy. You don't really get what I need. You don't hear me right now. So I want to teach you, and I think most of you probably already know this. How many of you have heard about the law of attraction? Okay. Well, the law of attraction works. It's just like, who in here can explain how cell phones work? All right, probably our one computer guy. All right. But most of us don't know how they work. But they work. You just think, wow. Who can explain how microwaves work? Oh, really? Shoot. Ruin my law of averages. But, so you have two computer guys married to each other?
Yeah, they will be soon.
Techies?
Kind of scary.
Yeah, two techies. Woo.
Don't worry about any of the computer crap that they hear.
Yeah. Good for you. I admire you. But the law of attraction says that our thoughts send out a message. And I liken it to a radio. Who listened to the radio coming down here today? Okay, what station did you have on?
I have no idea, whatever was on the radio.
But what was it? Was it country? Was it NPR? Was it classic? Who knows what they listen to?
Mountain FM 102.
Mountain FM 102. What do they typically play?
It's kind of a variety.
Okay, but I happen to,
Country.
yeah, I happen to know them, and their demographic is women between, I think it's 30 and 55 or something like that. That's who people who advertise on that, that's who listens to them typically. So you get in the car, you have FM 102 on, and all of a sudden you're getting hip hop. What does that say to you? You turn it. You turn it. Because that isn't what you wanted, is it? That isn't what you...
Somebody else has been driving my car.
Yeah. We better check that gas tank, right? Yeah. Yeah. Teenage boys. You what? The DJ is younger. Yep. They're trying something new. Yep. But how our thoughts work is that we send out a signal. And the signal is what we're thinking about, and then it is, and you'll understand this, it is captured by a similar one and comes back to us. So if we think negative thoughts, we're sending out negative thoughts, and negative thoughts are coming back. One of the things about communication is understanding what signals we're sending out and what signals are coming back to us. And if we don't like the signals that are coming back to us, then we need to trade our signals. We need to change the station. And law of attraction gets a little complicated, but I have written a couple of books on it, and I'd love to share with any of you who need some more instruction about it. It just is. It's like gravity. It just exists. And what we think about, we bring about. And so it behooves us to think really good thoughts. And at some point, I think I've done the experiment in here about how much further we can go with our thoughts. I thought I had, that we actually can make ourselves stronger just by thinking about it. So we're going to take, let's see, it's 7 to 10. Let's take 7 minutes, go get down to the cafeteria, get you a cup of tea, whatever you need, go to the bathroom, there's bathrooms here, and then let's come back here, and we're going to be talking about building respectful relationships. Because there's a whole difference between just relationships and respectful ones, mutually respectable. Okay, let's take a break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start again. Thank you for bearing with me as I knock over tea and trip on my shoes and lose things. And know that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. That's all. It's just showing up is 90% of the thing. And the first third, we talked about various means of communication, and I'm so grateful that it was brought up to me to really spend a little more time back on nonverbal for people who are on the spectrum. Because, and once again, this is for kids of all ages, because when a kid graduates from college, does he ever quit having ADD? No. What happens? He marries your daughter. That's what happens. And so you have to learn to adjust. You have to learn how to work with that. One of the things about kids on the spectrum or people on the spectrum is they don't read body language well. And so as an instructor, as a spouse, as an employer, you need to help them understand. And they really often don't know where their body ends and someone else's body starts out. So it's important that you work with them, teaching them that by magazines, showing magazines, or taking a video of them and then playing it back without the sound. And saying, did you see how you were invading his space? Did you do this? This is one that we've taught our grandchildren, is elbow to hip. This is your personal space. And nobody comes in unless you invite them. And you invite them by or moving towards them, or open arms, or sharing. But that's an invitation. If you aren't invited, then you need to respect that. And sometimes it's good just to have, this is just a little signal that we were talking about. Right here. That just says to someone, personal space, you know. Just give them a little bit of room there. So any questions or comments certainly teach us about kids on the spectrum, kids who are 45 on the spectrum. I have to make a confession to you, computer guys. I look for kids on the spectrum to help me with my computer because they don't speak the language. I'm a buffer to the outside world. Nobody gets to them. They come in their little hoodie, and it's magic happens. I have, I don't know how many websites, 20 websites, something, and they do it, and I don't question them because they speak in a language that's so foreign. But I trust them, and they know I trust them, and they know that I will protect them. So if you have kids on the spectrum, steer them towards that because very good money, very good. Anyone else have something they want to share, that technique that they've used with ADD or kids on the spectrum, adults on the spectrum? Anyone? When we say spectrum, what do we mean? Autism, Asperger spectrum. And why do we have that spectrum?
Because there's a wide range of their abilities.
A wide range of those abilities. So remember this word spectrum today when we're talking about the 5 love languages. Because nobody's just one. They're all of these.
Yeah, I mean, because like a sign that is that they don't look you in the eye, and some autistic children will look you in the eye, so you can't just use that.
That's right. That's right. A lot of autistic children won't look you in the eye, but some will. We have an autistic grandson who tells me that he isn't autistic when he sings. I don't know, but I know that he's a singer like I've never heard before, that somehow that transcends whatever his brain is doing. So let's talk a little bit about respectful communications. 5 things that matter in a communication. And if my husband can find our handouts and bring them down, we're going to work on a conversation that you had last week. So just kind of be thinking about one. And it could be a little conversation, it could be a big one, it could be whatever, but a conversation. So the 5 things that are really important is what is said, the information given, how it is said, who is saying it, why it is said, what's the motivation for even saying it at all, and how did you perceive it or receive it? Because very often what we hear is not what was said. That we hear through our own filters what we want to hear or what we don't want to hear. We hear through our own filters something that will make us mad. And we're almost ready for that. So what is said is the message in words, and it's sometimes changing the words can convey an entirely different meaning. So here's a story. Travis came home from school sad because he wasn't chosen for the play. He's very vulnerable and he needs reassurance that he's a good person. However, when he stands close to his mother, who is on the phone, he needs reassurance. Have any of you ever had Velcro kids like this? Have you? You're a good sport. You're a good sport. What he needs is reassurance. What is he getting? An annoyed mother. Like, give me a break, kid. Okay, she wants to stand, she wants to converse with him, but she's on the phone. So how does she indicate to him this is not a good time?
Just a minute.
Yeah, just a minute, a little frown. And so he senses from her tone, from everything, that he's not going to get what he needs. So here's another one. I had a friend who came into my office one day and tipped over a tea bag or a teacup. And she said, "Oh, I am so clumsy." And I said, "Why would you say that?" I put the teacup too close to the edge. And she said, no, I've always been clumsy. Trust me to knock things over. And I said, where does that come from? Because I've known you for 4 years. I have never seen you knock anything over. I've never noticed you. And clear back, it was what her father had said, that she was very clumsy. Do you remember being about 11 and 12 when your shoes were about 10 times bigger than your body was, and your nose was big, and your ears were big, and your teeth were hanging, and your legs were like this? That's just part of what happens when you're 11 and 12. And he consistently called her clumsy. So that stuck with her. She believed that. She then did what is called a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is, oh, I'm clumsy? Well then, I might as well knock that off. I might as well take the blame for knocking that off, when it wasn't really her fault. If anything, it was mine for leaving it so close to the edge. And so what is said is by far and away very, very, very important, but how it is said makes a big difference. And if it's said in anger, it is locked into another part of the brain. Can I have another tissue? Yeah. This girl gets a free book, so just saying. Bring tissues next time you come to one of my classes, because she gets a free book. Okay, so how it is said, or who's saying it, how it is said, and the tone of voice, the facial expression, and one time our son, Andy, said to me, I was working, having 6 kids, foster kids, all of these things, and my husband and I were laughing the other day that at that point of time, we had 6 streams of income coming into our home. Have any of you ever been in those situations? Well, you're richer and stronger than we were, because it took 6 streams of income to get our family going. But my little voice said to me, quit yelling at me. And I said, Andy, I am not yelling at you. I'm talking to you in a normal voice. And he said, your voice isn't yelling at me, but your face is. So it told me that my body was at home with him. My mind was still at work on a problem, and I was conveying that message to him that I was angry when I wasn't. I was angry at someone else, and this is another good one for kids on the spectrum. They frequently feel that teachers, when they frown, are mad at them, and will come home and say, my daycare provider doesn't like me, my teacher doesn't like me. Why would you say that? Well, she always frowns at me. When you work with the teacher, you find out she's thinking, did I turn that crock pot on? You know? Man, do I have to buy birthday candles, or do we have some in the drawer? Doesn't have anything to do with that child, but they take that message very, very personally. So that brings up the third one, which is who is saying it. If it is someone that has power, a mom, a boss, a teacher, then it carries more weight. And just like my friend remembered that her father called her clumsy. Her father was, to her, a hero. He would never do anything that wasn't absolutely right on. So if he called her clumsy, then by golly, she was clumsy. And she would live up to that. Let me just side path and tell you another story that I just love. How many of us have said to our kids, is it Brittany? Brandy, do not leave your milk that close to the edge. It's going to fall. Brandy, I'm not kidding you. Your milk is going to fall. Do you know how much milk costs? You know, money doesn't just grow on trees around here. You know, First Security is closed. You leave that there, you're going to knock it off. You're going to knock it off. You're going to knock it off. What happens to the milk? This is the law of attraction, sending it out. It gets knocked off. What happens if we're smarter than that and we just say, milk belongs in the middle of the...
Honey, let's skip the milk one.
Yeah, it's over. It's done. It's not that big of a deal. We don't have to get out of our pajamas and into the car and drive to the 7-Eleven to get a quart of milk. It's done, and it's solved. So we can give the message that Brandy's clumsy, and that milk is much more important than Brandy, and that money, that she's a drain on the family finances, or we can just move the stupid milk. And it's over and it's done with. And it goes on, and thank you for those of you who came up and helped me clean here and say, it's just an accident. Okay, I want to pass these out. Let's get these started here. And we can go, I'll help you go back and fill in the first of it if you want to. There's 6 pages here, and 3 of them I'm giving to you especially because they're from professional daycares in Australia. But I loved what they were saying about communicating with parents, making a partnership. So that's my little I love you gift to you. All right, so in there, we are on down here. We are on the 2nd page. And what is said, how it is said, who is saying it, why it is said, how you receive it and perceive it. I want you to take 1 minute and fill this out right here. The message, that conversation you had last week, the message that was sent out and what you heard. Just take just a minute, just real quick, jot it down. Everybody got a pencil? Doesn't have to be a big one. Might even be, I had a conversation with a clerk
Anybody else?
in JCPenney's last week who was harassed and tired and exhausted and cranky. What she said was, you can't use a coupon on that. And what I said was, the sign said that I could use a coupon. What she said was, well, you're not going to use a coupon. What I said is, okay, that's fine, I don't need it. That much I really didn't. I mean, it was one of those things that I was using the coupon to buy something I didn't want and would give to Secret Seconds next week anyway. So, but what she said, what I heard was, I have the power, and I'm tired, and I'm not gonna let you use the coupon. Okay, anybody got one they wanna share?
I had a deal with Century this week.
Yeah, this is customer service kind of.
Oh, yeah. But it wasn't until a day later that it was like, oh, so that was the, you know.
That was what they were
But
trying.
I had to talk to somebody completely different because the gal was just, you know, cannot do it this way, cannot be done this way. And then, did you know that to get you off the phone, when you really start to get out with them, they give you a number, a confirmation number? This is all handled. I had 3 of them from 3 different people just so they could get me off the phone. And so the guy I talked to yesterday, finally, I said, can you just explain it?
Yeah.
And he said, they just wanted to get off the phone, so they gave people this number.
That's because they literally, their pay is documented and how long they're on the phone. And customer service is a real good one.
The time.
Yeah.
You know, to explain this, and I'm like, okay.
One human to
And
another.
it got handled.
Yeah. And for any of you who are in customer service, this is a really good lesson, because what will happen is DirecTV, any of those, they have a certain amount of time to speak to you. And if they go longer than that, then they're penalized. And if they keep it shorter, then they get bonuses. But what happens, and what has happened to me before, is this one doesn't solve it, so she passes me to this one. This one doesn't solve it, they pass me to this one. This one doesn't solve it, so they pass me to this one who solves it. And I'm so grateful. I want to invite him for Thanksgiving. I want to send his kids cookies. I want to do everything. And then they say, will you fill out the survey? How did you feel the service was? So then you're in a quandary, because you're not allowed to say, well, number 1, number 2, number 3 were lousy, but number 4 walked on water. Because you're in there. So any of you who have any influence with customer service, will you give them that feedback? Because nobody listens to me. Okay, so are you reacting to what they said or what you think they said? And
Perception, you're reacting to your perception of what they said, not necessarily your receipt.
that's right. That's right. It's often what we perceive they're trying to get. And with kids, we're trying to perceive what it is they want. What are they trying to manipulate me into getting? What is it that they really want that I'm not going to give them? But they're going to keep at it until I give them
Not
something.
to belabor the communications thing, but I actually did call several utilities yesterday trying to lower my bill. And the one conversation I had, I was like, wait a minute, and I realized I was missing something in the math. That's what, I'm like, wait a minute, if you're telling me this, it doesn't add up. She goes, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was clear, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know, it wasn't all my perception. In that case, math helped clear it up.
Right, for
Because it wasn't
everybody.
adding up.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that we've talked about, this customer service, which is going downhill rapidly all over the world, is just finding someone who will remember we're human. And they're human too, and work on it from that viewpoint. Go
I
ahead.
have found lately, especially with customer service, because it's that time of season, if you ask them, you say happy holidays to them first, and I ask how their day is going first before I get started, I get much better service.
Well, sure. Who wouldn't? I'd love you too. I'd send cookies to your kids.
Well, the lady I had was very polite and we were fine. It's just that there was a little gap. I was asking about internet. She was saying it was $14.95, and I'm like, oh, why are you telling me it's this amount? And she goes, I'm sorry, it's only $14.95 in rural areas. That was the
Yeah.
part that was missing.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that was with communication was fine, but I missed that little technical.
Which is very important, because a lot of times when we're communicating, we aren't getting the whole information. And it's very, very, very difficult when we're doing it on the phone, because we are missing what?
Well, you're missing body language.
We're missing body language, we're missing facial tones, we get tone of voice, but even tone of voice is filtered on a phone or on a computer. So we aren't getting the full message. Let's go back here. Active speaking, or active listening, so children would speak. And so I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Well, clarify what you want. Oh, let's go to this one. Speaking so kids will listen. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you get the kids' attention before you start telling them. Because I don't know about you, but I found that when my grandsons are playing Legos, the last thing they want to do is stop in the middle of Legos and listen to me. And what they really want is me to say, very specifically, when you finish with this game, I need you to do this. Very, very clearly. I need to touch them. And once again, if you've been to my classes, you know that I talk about from the shoulder to the elbow is a safe place. And that's a place where we can pat, we can rub, we can do whatever, and it's very comforting to children, but it's a safe place. You're probably going to smack me at the end of this.
No.
You're thinking, you know how lady, she felt me up. And
Kids all day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good time.
Okay, make your request very simple, very specific. And probably the number one thing that I want to tell you that I have learned through many, 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 many years of parenting, teaching, working with after-school programs is tell kids what you want, not what you don't want. So when we were doing this, and I was saying, I don't want that milk spilled. I don't want it. It got spilled. If you say, milk belongs in the middle of the table, I want you to move your milk over, they'll comply. When you say, a very general, clean up your bedroom, what happens? It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yes, small tasks.
Yeah, so smaller tasks, my book, Kids, Chores, and More, is back there for any of you that need that. But you need to be very specific. I want the pajamas in the drawer, I want your shirts in the closet, I want the books on the bookshelf. Then they know what you want. Give reminders and say, will you report back to me? I'm going to go in the kitchen and be working, but I need you to report back to me when you've got this done. Encourage the process. Don't praise the task. And there, I just used don't, didn't I? Well, you encourage the process of growing and of trying and of working towards something. Because if we only congratulate the end unit, at some points they're going to do it sloppy. And they're not going to connect that with a good job. What we need is to say, you're really working on this. You're getting very organized. The number one compliment thing I want you to drill down all the way, I want you to start telling kids they are problem solvers. Because that is what is needed by the world of work, are problem solvers. And just like these two lovely people here who are techno geeks, at one point there used to be computer nerds. Well, now there's 150 different kinds of computer nerds. And it's just like you used to go to the doctor. Well, now there's 150 different kinds of doctors that you go to. The one thing that will get these kids successful in the world of work is to be a problem solver. So help them do that. All right. we've talked about attracting a positive outcome. And we're almost ready for the love languages. Should we go right into the love languages? Is that what you came to hear?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. There are 5 love languages. First of all, I want to ask how many of you have read the books? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, have you read the love languages of children or love languages for a maid or?
I did the couples and the teenagers.
Good, oh, teenagers, I haven't read that one, that would be good, that would be good. Did it say by duct tape?
I did it when they finished.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so there are 5 major ways, and I've taught here before when we've talked about learning styles, and I've taught here before when we've talked about ADD and Asperger's and all sorts of things. But the love languages is a completely different one. It's about how we give and receive love. First of all, I want to ask you to think, those of you who know this, how many of you know what your love language is? Anybody? Pretty lady in green.
Words of affirmation.
Me too. Me too. Someone else.
Physical touch.
Physical touch. Okay. Someone else. Anybody else?
Emotional and eye contact and physical affection.
Okay. I'm going to put these up here in 4 different places, and then we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to divide into our sections. So since I already owe you a book, can I get you to help me on this?
Sure.
Okay, put this one, let's see, let's do 1, 2, 3, put 4 over there, and we'll put 5 over there. So we'll do, this one is number 1. So 1 is physical touch, and we've already talked about this, how important it is for babies. How important is it for 45-year-old women? It is, isn't it? It is, yeah. In fact, I had a friend who went through a very, very messy divorce, and her therapist said, the first thing I'm going to prescribe for you is a once-a-week massage. You need to be touched. You need to be held. You need to be loved. So physical touch goes through a wide spectrum. When we're babies, it's necessary to have physical touch as a baby in order to what? What does a
Grow and evolve, grow.
Okay, oh, here's the Scotch tape. I'd hate to accuse one of you for taking my Scotch tape. Just, yeah, if you were going to take something, that would be what you'd do. This is an old Scotch tape, old Scotch tape. Okay, so I was busy looking for Scotch tape. We use physical touch for what? Thrive. How do you know when kids come into a daycare situation that they need to be physically touched?
Well, because they attach themselves to you,
Okay?
like, they want to physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to hug.
They're called Velcro kids, aren't they?
Yeah.
Velcro
They
kids.
don't care where they attach you.
That's right. They want to be with you. They want to feel like they're secure, like you're giving them what they need. All right, what happens when the kids are 4, 5, 6?
They don't care, they still do it.
Yeah, they still,
If you look at them and say, I don't like that no more, they still do it.
yeah.
They don't care.
Okay, what happens when they're 10, 11, 12, and teenagers?
They still do it.
I agree. Yeah, and what we told our son is, I don't care if we have to lean a stepladder against you, buddy. We're getting kisses. So,
I run.
They still follow me. My 18-year-old. And I'm like, you're 18, you shouldn't be doing this anymore. And he's like, Mom, why don't you like being touched? Because it's weird.
Well, you can only assume that he's going to look for a woman just like you.
Oh, God help him.
But during the break, I was talking to some of the guys here and telling them how much I love them for being in these situations, because children have got to have male nurturers. They have got to. And I met a man at a conference one time that really just shifted my whole per diem. And I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a youth minister. And I said, really? So you work with youth in your church? And he said, no, I'm the nookie giver. And I said, what? And he said, when the teenage boys come in to the church, I put my arm around them and go, hey, buddy, glad to see you, wonk, wonk. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, teenage boys need that.
Yeah, they do.
Teenage boys need somebody to rub their head and grab them and wrestle them and hit them in the belly. And he said, that's all I do. I said, really? And he said, and it's amazing how much our youth have started coming to church now, when we were, when it was really falling off. And he said, they don't want to say they need that, but that's what they're there for, is to make this connection. So when we're doing love languages, we each have a emotional tank, and I've shown this to you before, that when a baby is born, we happen to have a new one in our house called Silas. He isn't in our house, but he's still ours. And when he's born, it's just clear, pure, unadulterated joy. Just all he has to do is breathe in and out. And we all clap, we all do FaceTime, we all of my daughters came for a conference recently, and one of the women afterwards said, well, whose baby is it? And I said, well, it's hers. And she said, well, she's the only one that wasn't holding him. I said, that's right. That in our family, babies are passed around and oohed and awed and loved. Okay, so here's Silas. And this is his emotional tank, because Silas doesn't know who he is. He's waiting for us to tell him who he is. And so if we say, you're clumsy, that goes in there. So that when something comes up and he'll say, yeah, I'm clumsy. Or he trips, he'll say, oh yeah, see, I knew I was clumsy. So if we say, you are a problem solver, then he's going to be able to use that in all these different aspects of his life. He's going to, and we say, you are just so sweet and so kind. All of these things are going in there. I'm going to take a little TV commercial right here, because I want to share with you some research that I didn't bring, but that I have on my blog of Ask Annie Artichoke, that recently did a group of middle schoolers, and they were given math tests. And they all did well on the math test, and half of them were told, you're very smart. You're very, very smart. The other half of them were told, you are a good problem solver. You were able to find solutions. Then they were given another math test that was a little bit harder. The ones who were told they were smart quit. They stopped doing it. And they essentially said to themselves and to their counterpart, see, I knew I wasn't that smart. I can't figure this out. The ones who were told you're a good problem solver, it gave them encouragement, and they worked until they solved that problem. So this is new research that's just coming up, that when we give these blanket things like you're so smart, it actually is backfiring. When we say good job, it backfires. We need to give them phrases that will encourage them along the way. So that was just a little TV commercial from some research that I was just doing, which, by the way, was brought to my attention by a sweet mother in one of my classes that emailed me and said, you need to look at this. This is very, very interesting. So we've got Silas. We're putting all of these things inside of him. This is his emotional tank right here, so that when he goes out into the world, he knows who he is. He has some labels that he can pull out, some talents, some skills. And that's what we're doing when we're learning our love language, is we're figuring out what method or what language he uses to fill it up. Because I'm words of affirmation too. My husband is acts of service. Had I been him and he been me, I would have said, really? You left them somewhere? Where would you have left them? Why didn't you have everything together? Or, all right, I'll bring them to you, but I'm going to make you pay. You know, I'm going to remind you for the next 50 years that I did this for you. 50 years, I have never filled my car with gas. Ever. Every morning my vitamins are laid out. I know. But that's how he shows love. How I show love is to say, oh, you look great today, or wow, that was such a great presentation, or the car really looks nice. That doesn't mean anything to him, because he wants acts of service. So when we're talking about our children and finding out what they are, we need to observe the clues that they give you. So how does your child express love to you? How does your spouse express love to you? Anybody?
Acts of service.
Acts of service. Like, give me an example.
Just all kinds of little things around the house. If I stay later at work, then I'll come home to help me make it.
Right.
4 weeks.
Right. And does he expect you to, oh, what a goose I am, oh, what a goose I am? No. That's just how he does love. And what is your love language?
Quality time.
Quality time. Yeah. That's one that's like a touch that goes through all of these, but there are those of us who need quality time more than anything else. And your daughter? Okay. And how does she tell you that she wants quality time?
Oh, she'll just be right next to me all the time. If I'm cooking, she'll be right in the kitchen with me wanting to help, and she'll just be with me all the time.
Okay. And does she ever say, I need you to spend this time with me? How old is she?
She's 5.
Yeah, that probably isn't even in her vocabulary. But what she's saying is, I need you. And this is a good season to remind each other that what our kids need are not presents, but presents, presence. The best toy you could ever, ever, ever give your kid is you. A cardboard box and you, an empty toilet paper roll and you. Happy as a dog's ear. That's what they need. Contrary to what Mattel tells you, or contrary to what Toys R Us, what they really need is presence. So we've got physical touch, and if a child needs physical touch, we've determined they want to be touched. You also can tell because they will hug you. They will like to hug. And sometimes with kids on the spectrum, they don't like to be hugged at all. They don't like to be touched. But they do like to be asked, could I hug you? Could I touch you? And which is just a polite way of doing it no matter who our kids are. And respectful relationships is just saying, may I hug you? May I hold your hand? Until they're 18, and then they won't, but sometimes they will. Okay.
Yeah, our natural inclination is when the baby's crying to go pick them up. And I had a baby once who just does not want to be touched when the child was crying, and I didn't get that at first. That I was actually making the child cry more because I went home and picked the child up.
Okay, and what she was just telling us was her natural inclination was to pick up a crying child. How did you figure out what that child needed?
The cry got worse and louder.
Okay, It was a different tone of voice, wasn't it?
It was distinctly louder, the facial expressions, you know, I mean, it was like, oh my God, and then I put the child down and it was more of a calming sort of tone.
Sure, sure,
Like,
sure.
leave me alone, don't
Right.
you get it?
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes a baby just needs you to rub their back. And I think that that's one of the things that is just so fascinating to me, is to watch mothers. And we have a friend who had a 67-year-old adult autistic woman in her home for about 35 years. And I said, how do you know what she needs? Completely nonverbal. And she said, it's like your baby. You pick up those cues. You pick up the clues, and they tell you what they need by the facial expressions, the whole thing. Yeah. So let's talk about how children would tell you the words of affirmation, which we agreed, that's mine, and that's yours. Anyone else like words of affirmation? Anyone else like people to say, oh, you're so good, or oh, that was a great dinner, or yeah, 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 we need that. That's what we live for, is somebody to say, oh, what a goose I am, oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, how do you know with little kids?
Because they're always pushing for.
Right.
Like, if I tell one of the children, oh, you did a really good job picking that pile up, somebody will speak up, well, I did too.
Yes, that's exactly. They're fishing for a compliment. They say, I did a really good job. Yeah, well, I did too. How many of you, how many kids want you to see the picture they've drawn and put it on the fridge? All the time. Right, go ahead.
We are potty training right now, and we have a 1.5-year-old who will try, a 2-year-old who doesn't want to try, and a 4-year-old who still has accidents. And if we collectively sing, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you, and you can be proud of you too, and everybody claps for the child who goes potty, they get to choose a star, they get a sticker.
Sure.
The song means so much more than the sticker.
I know.
Because it's the group saying, well done, you keep in the pot.
Yeah, yeah. That's words of affirmation.
But
Once
they
again.
like to boost each other up too, and then they want to be the next guy.
Right, right. Okay, so let's diagnose this. This is on potty training. So sometimes that's hard to put that into into adult coworkers, but maybe not. They wanted the group adoration. Hooray for you, hooray for you. You're doing a good job. But let's remember the little star, because the star is another form of this, and it's actually number 4, and that's gifts. Let's do number 3, quality time. This is the one who, the person who expresses love, and you need to understand, whatever love language you have is typically how you will express love to someone else. What happens is, if that isn't their love language, they don't get it. Or they don't value it nearly as much as you do. So quality time, who in here feels like that's their thing? Okay? And what chunk of time is considered quality?
Anytime, as long as it's quality.
Okay. Okay. And what is, well, I think that's really interesting. Quality differs with different people. Because sometimes if someone's cooking and someone's sitting by them chopping, that's quality time. We're together, we're working on one function together, we're a team. Other time they want this eyeball to eyeball thing. And do you enjoy that, the eyeball to eyeball?
Not really.
I know. Most men don't. Most men don't. They get real nervous, like, don't the storm...
Like the problem in relationships is you want to talk to your spouse, and as a woman, you're like, look at me, and they're like looking at the TV, the computer, and they're like, but I'm listening to you. And I'm like, no, you're not looking at me. Therefore, we think you're not listening.
And they are listening. Actually, this is one of those things that you need to know that we found out with our 6th child, who was a son, was that men's brains, women's brains are immediately like this. Well, you should have, you could have. Why didn't you? And men are like, let me process that for a minute. Let me process. There's a lag time between here and here. Really? And then, at least the men I know, tend to come out with a solution. When we didn't want a solution, we wanted a sounding board.
Exactly, you just want to talk to them, and every time you want to talk to them, and you want them to solve whatever it is.
Right, and we don't necessarily.
We just had a really good training about that, the voice training at the Hilton a few months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really good when he was talking about how boys take long to process, and so they'll get in trouble at school and they'll be fine, and then at home they'll just be like, yeah, you know, and
Yeah.
it's a few hours sometimes.
Yeah, and who taught that? Was it Brad Bolton?
Oh, I can't remember, it was the power of play.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, and that is so true. Another thing that I learned late in life with this bonus baby, who turned out to be male, was he needed 3,000 calories a day. I didn't know that. And so he would come home from school just, and I immediately thought, well, he has a problem, and we're going to solve this problem by sitting down and talking about it. And finally found out that boys need 3,000 calories, so I said, here's peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You know, here's some cookies, here's some granola cookies. Go eat and then come back up. That's all he needed. Yeah, just food in there. Okay, so we've got, I want to go over these real fast. We've got physical touch, and I want each of you to choose the way you do it. Physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, the stars. What are some other ways that gifts are a way to show love?
Diamond earrings, hugs.
Hugs, diamond earrings, tangible. Yeah. And those of us who like gifts like the story with the gifts. Like I get a lot of compliments on this, and this my husband gave to me at 35 years. I had to go with him to Costco with a neon sign, but he got it. He gave it to me. So, and then this one my sister sent to me this year for turning 70. And she said she wore it for 40 years and that I could wear it for 40 years. So these gifts are worth way more than their tangible cost because they come with a story. They have a story with them. And when we were back there talking about how you connect with people, one of the best ways is to compliment them on something. To say, I love your earrings. Those are so cute. Did you make those? Or did you buy them at a local crafts show or something, which then gets you going on that. All right. And 5 is acts of service. And how many of us like acts of service? What do you do for an act of service?
I don't know, cook dinner or do his laundry.
And for those of you who are very young, you probably don't think cooking dinner is a big deal. For those of us who are over 50, that's a real big deal. You know, we hit Shopko this morning at 7 to get some little prizes for the gifting tree. And I had some cookie sheets in there, and my husband said, wow, who are those for? I thought, pow. But it is an act of service. It is an act of service to cook and to prepare and to remember what your family's favorite foods are. And to know that this one likes mayonnaise, this one doesn't like mayonnaise, this one likes cheese, this one doesn't like cheese. When we order pizza, this has to be just pepperoni for her. And yeah, that's a huge act of service. So can you relate this to your children? Can you relate this to the ones that you have? Okay, I'm going to ask you to go and find one of these, your act or your language of love.
Does it have to be just one?
Well, it isn't. It isn't just like one. What?
I do all of it.
Right, we do. And this is like our learning style. You're auditory, but you also are kinesthetic because you're taking notes. So All right, then, that's a hard one. I want you to pick an act of love, or a language of love of someone in your immediate circle, your circle of influence. Just one kid, or one husband, or one customer service rep. Okay, and you will speak from that vantage point. Okay. Is that too hard? Should we just, it isn't? Okay, then we won't. Then let's do, I know how to make adjustments. All right, well then let's talk about these languages then. Let's really break them down while we're here in a group. And if if I don't remember to repeat what you said, Ron, will you wave at me and I'll repeat it? Okay, because you have some incredible things to share. Okay, let's talk about, right up here it says, discovering how your kids do. So, give me an example. Somebody give me an example of how either a spouse or a coworker or a child has expressed love to you. What love language they have.
We have several that just tell us they love us.
All right, okay. And what does that, do they expect you to say it in return?
I don't think they expect it, but we do it because they make our name.
That's right. And so the expression, I love you, is that words of affirmation? It is for me.
Sure.
Yeah. Man, and all of our kids have graduated from here but can't make a living in Missoula. Have any of you ever noticed that? They've all had to go out of town in order to make a living. And so when we're talking on the phone, if I forget to say I love you, they call me back and say, you forgot to end that with I love you. So what are some other ways? Can you share one that is a way that either you or someone that you love, their love language? Okay, anybody else?
My husband will rub my shoulders, rub my back, but what he really is trying to say is, I want to have sex with you. But he doesn't know how to just say, can we have some quality time together? He
Okay.
doesn't know how to verbalize. Maybe he's been shot down a lot. I've only had him for 6 years. We all come with our baggage.
We do.
But he has to give me physical clues. Watching TV, start rubbing my feet.
That's what he wants in the end.
Exactly.
Okay, and I don't think that's out of the ordinary. I think a lot of times men are not really hungry for sex as much as they may be hungry for sex, but they're also, yeah. I'm not going to speak on that one. But I think they're hungry for intimacy.
Yeah.
Intimacy. So, okay, do you have one?
Yeah, I'm huge on the holidays and I'm a big decorator and stuff.
Oh,
and
well.
just been super busy this year and taking on a lot of babysitting jobs on top of work. And I haven't been able to decorate. I got home yesterday and my husband and my kids had put up all of our outside lights and stuff. And so it's just a big deal and it's making me tear up a little bit.
Well, it's making me tear up. How about you? Yeah. Because it is sweet. That's sweet. And those are acts of service. But is that also a gift?
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you be more excited with having all of the Christmas decorations up or a bottle of white shoulders from CBC?
All my decorations.
Right. Go ahead.
So to kind of change from that word, but I have one that it's an older sister and a younger sister. Well, the younger sister kind of wants to act out every now and then, but I've just now started. She's only 2.5. I've just now started to realize she wants her own time.
Yes.
She does not want to compete with her sister, with her mother, or with me, or anyone else. She wants her own time. And at times you think, oh, she's starting down the path of being where is she going with this discipline problem? But it isn't that. It's that she wants that quality time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of the other kids in the past, maybe we talk about the child, on the telephone and that type of stuff. certain children, they just need that one-on-one time.
Absolutely.
That quality time with you, and then they're good for the rest of the day.
They are. And they don't, I don't know if any of the rest of you have big families, but it was super important for our family because we had foster kids too. But our kids are 4 years apart, but they still needed alone time. And when Dwayne turned 70, I did a book for him and had all of the kids write letters of a favorite memory with Dad. And it's interesting because I told you before that with all of those kids, we had all of these streams of income, and they thought they were the only kids in the North American hemisphere who had to deliver messengers and had to deliver phone books and on and on and on and on, had to clip coupons. But every one of those letters that came in talked about a one-on-one time with their dad painting. We owned rentals. We would refurbish rentals and flip them. Talked about a one-on-one time scraping paint with their dad, getting up at 4 in the morning to deliver newspapers with their dad. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because at the time, I thought they were going to turn us in for child labor. And yet that turns out that is by far and away their best thing. So kudos to you for recognizing that at a 2.5-year-old, she's saying, I'm not just one of the right kids. I am this right kid. And this right kid does and needs and wants something different than that one. So kudos to you. That's great. How about someone else? Can I have someone else share? Share.
When my daughter was going through the awful teenage years, you can't hug them, you can't whatever. But I found you take her for a cup of coffee, because coffee was a cool thing at that age to go out and have an espresso or whatever. And that was showing love. If you took her for a coffee, that was an acceptable thing to her to build relationship.
And kudos to you. And for those of you who have not yet had teenagers, it's amazing how much they open up over food. Yeah. And I'm an early morning person, so therefore it's over by about 7:30 at night. But if I could stay up and have pizza when the kids came home, I had a couple of hours of really good quality time. But it was hard, but you do it anyway. How about some other stories? Some other sharing of aha, oh, that's what my kid wants, or aha, that's what I need. That's why I'm not getting what I need, because I'm asking in my language of love, and they're answering in their language of love. Anybody else want to share with us? Come on, I appreciate it. All right, thank you, my dear.
We have a little girl at daycare named Maggie, and she, whenever another kid does something, we're like, oh, good job. And she's like, well, I think those up too. She's very needs that. Or I didn't do that. If somebody gets, reprimanded. Well, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
And she's not even part of the conversation, but
Yeah.
she needs those words and needs that acknowledgement.
What I can see, which is a whole nother class that we can go to, but whenever kids have been treated with blame or shame, their natural inclination is to push it off on someone else.
Oh, yeah.
And if they have been punished for telling the truth, they're not dumb. They're two, but they're not dumb. They're not going to tell the truth anymore. And so if they've gotten in trouble for something that they did, it's going to be much easier for them to say, I didn't do it. Not only I didn't do it, but she did. I saw her. I was standing right here. I saw her. She must have done it because it wasn't me. Even when it isn't that big of a deal. But it's more of a self-protective. So if kids are self-protective, what does that mean that they need from a love language? What do they need you to how do they need you to reassure them? They need words of affirmation. They need this bottle filled with affirmation. Just right to the very top. Full of things that say, you are a good kid. You are a kind person. You are thoughtful. You are generous. You are gentle. I'm proud of you. You do a good job. You look for new ways to solve problems. That's what they need. They need that reassurance. So let's do, you ask me questions about these things, and let's solve anything that you have not gotten here today. And today was, I don't know if we'll even use this because I'm like off kilter or something, but this is available for you to use for training for your staffs. So you do that. Does everyone here know what MCAT is? It's the Missoula Community Access Television. And so you have access to this. This is yours. You've already paid for it. Anyone else, ask me some questions about love languages. Ask me questions about life. I didn't just fall off the turnip truck yesterday. So I know all about life. What do you need to know?
Love languages change over time.
Yes, they do. Because all of us start out with touch. And then we gradually change, and there are different times in our life when we go through tragedies or traumas when we need something completely different. Something that we didn't need yesterday. And so when that emotional fuel tank is full, then we can say, and go to the next one. Yep.
My darling daughter, who is a twin, who is only 20, is working in a rape crisis center, and her physical demeanor has changed with her sensitivity of trauma.
Yes, yes.
She has become more mature.
Mm-hmm.
She has become more of a parental figure or
Mm-hmm.
a nurse type.
More authority.
But she's a hand holder, and she's a really good listener. And she's just a sweet young thing who 6 months ago was, I love you, I hug you, and now she's a lot more, I respect my body's mine. She was in a little parade around a school. She's at MSU, not here.
We
But
still like you.
It said, the little black dress does not say yes.
Yes.
I went, holy cow, this is my girl.
I know. And
Being big and strong and vocal and setting guards up that say,
yeah.
hands off, buckwheat. Where just when she was in high school, she was just this lapdog.
Yes.
She was just this poodle face.
Yeah, and the opposite of that. Thank you so much for sharing about a daughter who works in a rape.
Changed enormously, and it wasn't her rape.
No,
It
but
was her knowledge of what happens when we're
right, and we take on that actual persona. And they say that people who live together for 50 years start looking like each other. I still have my hair, but we both have hair in our chins, so that's how we do. But just like her story of her daughter becoming softer, we have a daughter who is a major in the Air National Guard, who was very soft and very gentle and very, really a problem solver, a single mom, and then became an officer in the National Guard and is the commander. So she's about your size, talking to these 6'5" guys and who could step on her. And she said, oh, they wouldn't dare. But we have seen her demeanor change because she has to be harder. What we're very, very proud of is that she's the kind of person we want in our military, because she's the kind of person who will say, not on my watch, you're not. But we've seen her literally change. What used to be words of affirmation is no longer. Because if you've ever known anyone in the service, people hardly ever say good job. You know, they're pretty harsh. But what she has found is quality time. She wants quality time now more than anything in the world, where she can just let down. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of reverse of that. I got my degree in criminal justice, and I was working at the daycare to put myself through.
I remember you now. Yeah.
And then I ended up, I graduated 3 years ago, and I just loved it there, and I softened a lot to dissidents and.
And yet, let's look at this. Degree in criminal justice, working in daycare. This is a dream come true for me. For me as a member of the Missoula community or the Montana community. Because I don't know if you ever read my letters to the editor, but frequently they are about that you are professionals and need to be treated as professionals. And I've gone to Helena to testify a couple of times, and I'm going again about the importance of early childhood. How great that we are spending money on daycare instead of prisons. Let's put the money where it counts. Let's get these kids a good foundation, a good, solid, filled to the brim, and then maybe we won't need as many prisons. I thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. I think that was because I'm betting $1 to a donut you would have made more in criminal justice. Yeah. So you tell your husband, just keep cooking. Okay? All right. Anybody else have a question? Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Come on, you don't want to get out early. If you get out early, you'll have to go downtown Missoula and have lunch. And it isn't even spend it local Saturday or whatever that was.
What drains a child's emotional tank then? As adults, it's obviously just life and the stresses of life that drain our emotional tanks. What is it for kids that drain their emotions?
It's the same thing for kids and adults. It's what we believe. And if we believe we're clumsy, we put that, we think about it, what we think about, we bring about. And so what drains them is putting those tapes inside of their mind that they're a burden, that they're not doing enough, that they can't keep up. Another little story, our Andy, who's 6'3", said to me when he was a little boy, "My name is not Andy Hurry. My name is Andy Wright." And I said, I don't call you Andy Hurry. And he said, "Yeah, you do. Every day, Andy Hurry, Andy Hurry, Andy Hurry." Yeah. So I think what shifts in them, and this is an emotional tank right here, but this is where all of the damage comes from. Right here. And these little tapes that go around and around and around and around. And some of those tapes are just flat out wrong. They're just wrong. And if it's because they believed something someone told them earlier, and they've incorporated that into their life. And as adults, we do the very same thing. And what's in here is just like, it's like a garden. And if you plant a pea from burpee peas or burpee seeds, and you plant a pea in this garden, you're not going to get one pea. You're going to get a whole multiples of peas. And that's the same with the positive. If you plant a positive, you're going to get a whole crop of positives. If you plant a negative, you're going to get a whole crop full of weeds. And so in order to counteract those weeds, you have to keep planting positive things. How many of you know what affirmations are? I knew you would. Anybody else? Affirmations, there is such a power in words, such a power. And our subconscious believes whatever we tell it. So if we say, "I am fat, I am clumsy, I am this," we believe it. And the subconscious prompts us to make that a reality. And that's why you will hear people saying an affirmation is anything that is followed by "I am." So that's a statement to yourself in this emotional thing of who you are. I am a healthy woman. I am strong. I am so blessed. And the more you give gratitude, the more is brought to you. And this book back here, it's called Out of Balance. Could you, well, let me just walk. This is one that, oh, yeah, this is one that I wrote for the, let me get this one. That's okay. This actually is a book that I wrote for Head Start parents and teachers. And it's called Building Self-Confidence with Encouraging Words. And that's exactly what we're talking about, how to build your own self-confidence. This one is one that I wrote last year, and it's on the 6 areas of life and how we all, at different parts in our life, it's like a bicycle wheel. And at different parts in our life, we're putting more emphasis on career or on education or on health or whatever. And I had a wonderful assistant that was typesetting this for me. And we came to the chapter on financial. And I had written it, gave it to her the next morning, and she was mad. But she didn't say she was mad because she didn't, she needed words of affirmation. And I didn't, how I picked up that she was mad was because, and finally I just said, okay, I give up. Tell me what is matter. The matter was, the chapter title was Being Poor is a Choice. And she was livid. And I did not know that at all, because I have always known that there's a difference between being poor and being broke. And we're all going to be broke at some point in our life, either spiritually or financially or physically or something. But being poor is you look around and you think, this stinks. I'm going to get out of here. What do I have to do to get out of here? Well, she was livid because of a cycle of family choices. She said, when you are in this bottomless pit that is so dark, you cannot see the light. And I said, how can you not see the light when there's an elevator right there that says elevator, stairs that say stairs, walking this, 2 hands saying, come on, come on, come on, come on, let me help you, let me help you. She said, because when you're poor, you never think that those things are there for you.
That's true, you don't know that, you don't know they're different, and everybody around you knows no different. So you never think to look at those stairs or those elevators, because you don't know culture any different than you until you move, or until you've seen something different.
Right. And I didn't know that.
No.
I didn't know that.
We've never experienced that.
I've experienced broke. I've experienced where we have $1.13.
It's a whole culture of its own, and it's so
Pervasive.
no, it's shocking. It's such shocking that it would blow people's mind. I mean, because I just experienced this again, because I left, and then I left, and then I went back home, and I just sat there. And I just sat there, and my daughter was with me, so she just met all her cousins and everything, and I just sat there, and it was just like
A whole nother language.
It's just
a whole nother
world, and it's just like they don't understand. They don't understand if they drove, or if they understand the concept of community college, and they understand the concept of grants and education, but they don't think that's for them,
Yeah.
because that's just not them. They're not smart enough for that, or anything. Or when you look at them and say, well, you can do this and you can do that, and this is how you do this, they look at you like you're an alien, because they just don't. It's a different culture. I mean, it's not just one generation. You're talking about generation after generation after generation after generation.
Right.
And it's just,
And-
it's just like.
And so we have this opportunity, this same opportunity this sweet woman had to either work in criminal justice or to work in daycare and start a new culture. So when when my assistant was angry about this, I said, then you need to explain to me how that works. And because I have never, ever seen people who have something who haven't shared. Maybe I just run with a good crowd. I don't know. I've just never seen anybody in my group who doesn't share all the time. And she said, you don't understand. And what we finally realized is that we were speaking two different languages. We were completely missing this. So I said, will you teach me? And she said, yeah, will you teach me? And so we came to this place where we could share with each other, where she could tell me what's going on. I just had the opportunity to view a documentary called Food Stamping. Have any of you seen that? Very, 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 very interesting. We do a lot with food banks. And the number or the amount of money that is left in our government's coffers, wherever they put this, because people don't apply for food stamps. Because they don't know that they are entitled to it, that they could get it. And I know it's a pain in the butt. Whoops, sorry, we'll cross that out. I know that's a lot of paperwork. I know there's a lot of stuff to get it. But the fact is, there's money there. And it isn't enough to have prime rib, but it's enough to make it till the end of the month.
But it's also the stigma, right, that comes with it, that makes you feel like a failure when you have to do that.
Right, and that is, once again, what I just brought up with Aaron Brock, who is the director of this, that's when I posted on Facebook about seeing this documentary and how much money, whew, quonk, quonk, quonk. Yeah, but you should see how you feel when you go down there and I'm 5 minutes late and I live in a rural area and I had to drive 54 miles and it was either the gas or food and everything. And I talked to him and he said, it's compassion burnout with some of those people. What we need to do is make sure that they know, like at the food bank here, they'll fill out the paperwork for you. You don't have to go down there at all. They'll just do it for you. And I don't know why we're on this, except that it's wonderful and it's interesting and it's about different languages. Because I think you have a calling, just like this sweet girl does, to mentor these kids in a whole different language. A language that may be more affirming, may be more outgoing. Certainly it's got to be much more culturally open and affirming. Because the kids you're working with in daycare, very, very doubtful if they will be working in Montana. Or if they're working in Montana, that they will be working just with Montana people. They will be, and you too know this, you're interfacing with people from Australia, Augusta, Georgia, all over the world. And you don't have to leave your house. This is what we're training our kids for. And so we've got to teach them this language. And the language of inclusion, the language of respectful communication, maybe body language. Maybe a saying, hi, I'm Judy Wright, and I'm here to apply for food stamps, and this is what we have. And they're saying, nope, I'm here to apply for food stamps, and here's my paperwork. Nope, I'm entitled to it. I'm here to apply for food stamps.
Except that if our children, and no offense, because, I mean, everybody's computer savvy these days, there are some who don't get it, but if our kids are on there 24/7, we don't get an opportunity only at that level to actually teach them how to greet somebody correctly.
All right.
Because once they're at a certain age and they go to school, their teachers have 32 kids or however many to one person. We've noticed that some of our children that we taught all this have lost the skills.
That's right.
They've gone to public school.
That's right, and that's what we were just talking about. Their whole countenance changes, doesn't it? They move to a different thing. And we don't have all of the power But we do have the power, and I've always wanted you to feel that you were in partnership with parents. And asking them to have an electronic-free zone every night from 6 to 7:30. No TVs, no cell phones, no iPads, no nothing. And have Facebook like this, getting on, because they are going to need that. But when we were talking about working all over the world, they will need these skills. It's just that they won't physically maybe be touching, but they're going to have face-to-face. They've still got to learn how to do that. And so you have a huge calling. And every time I come before you, I ask you, if you're just working for so much an hour, please go to Walmart. If you're working for so much an hour for 15 years, I'll drive you to Walmart. I'll help you fill out the application. But if this is a calling, if this is something that you feel in your heart, this is your destiny, is to fill these little kids, help them to know who they are and what they can accomplish in life, then I salute you. And I'll drive you to Denny's and buy you
Don't you think one of the first things that should be taught to not just the children in our care, but possibly the adults in our lives? First and foremost, because I had an employee one time that had a real problem with a little French boy that was in my care. She felt a little less respected than him. His parents were very successful, and it became quite a problem. So I contacted my licensor, who is not a licensor anymore, but she said, first and foremost, Lori, you need to assure everybody, the adults are adults, period. You didn't know, no matter what they're doing or what color they are or what nationality or what have you they are. And that the kids are kids. And if we can start right there with the kids of the kids, then they can all blend and not have a problem. Where in some families they may have a problem with different, nationalities or whatever, then that seems to be, I think, more of a starting point, and then build from there. Because then everybody's got all these qualities to work with. But kids are kids, and adults are adults, no matter what they're doing.
Exactly. And in an ideal world, the adults are there to protect the kids. Sometimes it isn't an ideal world. And quite frankly, who in here, hang on just a minute, sweetheart, who in here works with infants? Have you ever noticed that infants are colorblind? They really don't care what color you are or what language you speak or how much you make. They are colorblind. And it's only the adults who teach them to look for the other colors and the other ways. Go ahead.
Well, when she talked about teaching the parents and whatnot, it's really become prominent to me that there are certain classes, and you're talking college-educated parents, they're the children who come back after the summer break or after Christmas break. They don't flush the toilet, they don't wash their hands, they don't do this and they don't do that. And I'm thinking, these are college-educated parents, and they don't get it that, we have a reason for teaching them that, and then they're the first ones who take their kids to the public school and say, don't touch that toilet, don't touch that, don't touch that.
Oh, because of germs, you mean? Oh, yeah.
But it's like they've ingrained in their child, you don't have to flush the toilet, you don't have to wash your hands. And I mean, it snowballs. I mean, that's not just the smallest part, it's like they don't use their manners, they don't.
Yeah. Well, and I think that really comes back to, are we partners with the parents? Because we are. And that's what we should be doing, is partnering with them to work for the good of the children and each other. Okay, someone else had one that had their hand up and I didn't get to them. Anyone else? Something? Okay.
Well, I was going to say, we're really not on this topic, but I read it and I'm like, duh, yeah, that makes sense, but you don't think of it. And it's just reminding yourself that just somebody says something doesn't make it so.
No.
And
That's right.
You don't take on that, oh, I am stupid, or I am fussy, or whatever. You don't take on that persona of yourself, you do yourself.
That's exactly right. And one of the things that I used to take all the time when I was teaching at Lifelong Learning were Q-tips. And I don't have them, but how many of you have been in my classes before and you know what a Q-tip stands for? Good job. Quit taking it personally. Because our normal reaction is to assume that it's about us. And hardly ever is it about us. Quit taking it personally. And toothpicks stand for pick your battles. Yeah. Hmm? What do you say?
Did I do something to offend you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you mad?
Yeah.
What's wrong today?
Yeah. Well, and that's like with my assistant. I knew she was angry, but I didn't know about what.
Yeah.
And I would have never guessed that. Never in a million years. Never in a million years would have I gotten that. Okay, go ahead.
I've had a bit of a battle struggle with a child who's almost 4 years old, and his parents have PhDs in biology, and they don't make him eat green food because he's in charge. And so at my house, I'm sorry kids, but here's all the food choices. You need to choose this. We need to eat. We don't want to waste. That's what I'm trying to teach. Not you're a burden and food is expensive and I can't afford to throw it away, but
Right.
These foods are all valued. They all have value for different reasons. But I'm not getting the parental support with the picky eater. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you eat or I will feed you. I can help you put foods on your spoon, but I have a little guy who will take an hour and 45 minutes to eat a tablespoon of this, a tablespoon of this, and a tablespoon of that. Not unrealistic portions, and he's tiny. And I'm not getting parental support from these highly educated people who know what bodies need to grow on a molecular level.
Right.
But they let the kids be in charge.
Well,
The
and
mom is an hour and 15 minutes late bringing them to her scheduled time, and she says, I just couldn't get him in the car. I'd get one in the car seat, and he'd unbuckle, and he'd climb out, and then I'd go get the other one, and then he'd run away down the road, and she doesn't believe in ever giving these kids mom's in charge, eye contact, you will listen to me, you will do what I say, it is time to do.
Well, I was very pleased. These gals sent me the calendar. And I noticed Tammy Adams is teaching the ABCs of misbehavior. I can't remember what it's called, but it's something like that. But what that child is doing is trying to get some power.
Oh yeah, but he knows he's in charge at home.
Yeah.
And at my house, he's not supposed to be in charge. He's supposed to be part of a happy group where we all have our grilled cheese or quesadilla, and we have our 2 bites of broccoli, and we have our whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
I took a class, I remember, and it tells you, like, there's parent responsibilities when feeding a child and there's children's responsibilities. And so your job as a parent is to provide the healthy meals and then they pick out of those what they'll eat. And I took another one, three things you can't make a toddler do, and one of them is eating.
I did this,
And
I took that Picky Eater online class, and my suggestion, my feedback to that lady was we would do a graph paper of how many servings, because they said for servings per week, you know, if they're getting some green food. This kid will eat nothing green, nothing carroted, nothing.
Okay, my only suggestion is go to the library. There's a wonderful book that I literally had memorized called Cheese, Peas, and Chocolate Pudding, about a little kid who would only eat cheese, peas, and chocolate pudding until one day his brother accidentally dropped a piece of hamburger and the kid was playing like a dog and he went, and the hamburger went in his mouth and the kid said, oh, that's pretty good. Okay, well, I'll do cheese, peas, chocolate pudding, and hamburger. I read it every night for about 6 months when our son was very adamant and would frequently say at the dinner table, well, you might as well send me off to the orphanage because I'm not eating that.
I'd have been like, go give me the application.
I know. Do I need to say he tends to be a little dramatic, you know? But I don't know. I don't know about nutrition. I know that my philosophy is if you have at least 4 different colors during a day, you're going to be pretty well balanced. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what the laws are. I don't know what the dynamics are. Yeah, yeah. It will. It will. That's the way my son is. I mean, he's 6'2", good looking, so he made it on cheese, peas, and chocolate pudding.
And that's kind of basic, but I was going to say, my son was a very picky eater. Once he started eating foods, he'd only eat a certain thing, and a certain thing, and a certain thing for each meal, and that is it. There was nothing else, and I was so concerned that he wasn't going to grow, because in my opinion, it wasn't well balanced.
Right.
And I took him to the doctors, and they said, look, he continues to grow, he continues to gain weight, he doesn't look malnourished.
That's right.
He's getting what his body thinks it needs at this point in time, and he did develop a better taste in his eating. He did grow up and, eat better, it just took on his schedule, his time frame, and not mine.
So let's equate that back to the love languages. Is this kid going to, your kid and my kid, going to, if our act is acts of service, and we fix him cheese, peas, and chocolate pudding, is he going to remember that at some point and laugh about it when he's eating tofu and kale and arugula or whatever that is? Yeah, yeah. And so he's going to think of that as quality time. He's going to think of that as acts of service, because I certainly would have preferred that he ate what I cooked.
Oh yeah, in the beginning I was like, what am I doing? This is
Yeah,
becoming
and quit taking it personally. It doesn't have anything to do with us.
But we're not running a restaurant.
Right,
And
we aren't.
have requirements that we have to fill.
Right, you are so right. And what we say at our house, and it's not a daycare, is you have two choices. What's here or what's in the cupboard. But I'm not fixing anymore.
You have to offer a child a certain type of food up to 50 times before they'll even try it. And maybe sometimes you have to give them a dipping sauce to try to get them to try it.
Give them a what?
Sauce or something if it's
Oh, a
specific.
dipping sauce. Yes, yes, yes.
And have a little, so it gives it a little bit different taste. Sometimes when you can work them into try it.
And thank you. And you all know that my logo is the artichoke. And for a myriad of reasons, one of which is that it's, lots of families are very closed and a little prickly. You know, we've always done it that way. If it was good enough for my grandpa, it's good enough for my dad, it's good enough for me. How's that working for you? Aren't you court appointed here? You know? But the reality is that it takes a lot of time to open that up. And when I ask, in a class this size, how many of you eat artichokes on a regular basis? Yeah.
We don't have them seasonally.
Yeah, but we have them. But how did you learn how to fix an artichoke? Yeah, somebody taught you, you went online, you went, yeah. And a lot of families are like Red Delicious apples. You know, they know they can count, and it's like the culture we were talking about. They know that they can count on Red Delicious apples. They've eaten them all their life. Their parents have, their grandparents. They know that that's good, even though there's something like 162 different kinds of apples. But they know. Does it? I didn't know that. See? See? There you go. But they're almost afraid to try something, and then when they try it, they think, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. I could do that. Oh, well, now someone's taught me how to make an artichoke. I can do that. That's good. Doesn't mean you have to have an artichoke every day. It means that if someone is talking about artichokes, you know what they're talking about. So this all comes down to communication. And I want to communicate to you how much I love being invited here. I'm in my home office writing books, and I count on these ladies to invite me so that I can come and talk to those of you who are on the front lines. And you can say, you're so off base on that. I'll say, oh, okay, well then teach me. Tell me what I need to know. Teach me how to change that, how to shift that. And the wonderful thing about being a publisher now, and I have 23 books on Amazon. The wonderful thing is someone says in one of these classes, well, Red Delicious are the most nutritious. And I can pull that book down from Amazon, change that, and put it right back up in about an hour. Whereas, when I used to go through regular publishers, you'd have a garage full of books, and you'd just have to wait until, until the next printing. So it's wonderful to get feedback from you, and I love it, and I love you, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am as a community member about the work you're doing. It just makes me feel that our community's in good hands. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, there we go.